Welcome to Enduro 360. I'm your host, Chili White. Well, we got a lot of stuff going on in the garage. Just done with one trip, getting ready to go on another. But I thought we should take a minute to talk about our long-term update on 2015 Beta 390RR. We talked about the KTM last week. Let's give the Beta its due. With a shop full of orange bikes, you might think a red one here would be our how shall we say, our stepchild, but that's hardly the case. So 2015 Beta 390RR. Miles, we have really racked up a lot of miles on this bike. I wish I could tell you exactly, but our Trail Tech odometer has had some sort of an issue where it's only working intermittently. I think it's actually the pickup, not the odometer itself, because it goes on and off with no real rhyme or reason. But we are well beyond 100 hours. And at 100 hours, really, the odometer is the only thing we have to talk about in terms of any kind of mechanical issue. Beta has been a really, really nice bike to ride, and like the KTM, just about everybody gets on it's really happy with it. Let's walk through, for those of you who are just catching up with us, what we've got on our bike here. Most of it's pretty stock. We've got the Seat Concept seat on. This is kind of the smaller race version. It's not quite as wide, not quite as padded as some of the ones we're running. Certainly this would be your choice for a race bike. If I was doing a lot of open miles on this, really more trail or dual sport riding, I would go for the little wider model like we run on the KTMs. I should back up and say, you notice this bike it's kind of clean. I kind of battle whether I should really shine it up and make it look good, but frankly this is much more representative of how we use the bike, so let's just roll with it as it is. The Clark tank, we talked about mounting that a while back. It worked out really well, just in terms of it gives us enough miles on this bike, that range, that it can ride with KTMs with the slightly better fuel economy on their fuel injection, and still, be able to do full days. I mean, this is basically an all-day gas tank. Really, really work out well. Got our flex bars on. This bike has seen some rough and tumble times. It is scratched in quite a few different places, but to its credit, I have to say, nothing has kept us from riding it. We're testing some new handguards. These are by our friends at Fast Company, just for the flex bars. They have their own unique bend and mounting system there to go right into the stock threads on the bars. No extra parts required. They're basically an Enduro engineering handguard that they have made specifically for this application. So far so good. Those are actually working out really well. They also include a nylon threaded insert to go inside the bars, so tap the bars, put the nylon insert in, and then run the bolt straight in there. That real nice clean setup. White's not my favorite color. I think I'll get these switched out for maybe some black ones. Obviously we ran Takati Enduro on this bike, and it's been hard at it ever since. What else? Mostly stock parts. Other than that, we went with our BRP chain guide, and I can just finally see, now keep in mind, well over 100 hours, and we've just finally worn out the rear sprocket. This aluminum rear sprocket that comes on the Beta is actually a really nice piece. In the front, we've put on an SRT sprocket to change the gearing. That's equal to a KTM, so KTM part mounts right on there. You can see here, I'm going to be a little embarrassed to have to give this bike back. We've used it really hard. Really not much to talk about. One of the things that I think strikes everybody who gets on this bike is just how much fun it is to ride. It has a very distinct character, very distinct personality. Unlike our 450 XCW KTM that is so good it's almost dull, this bike's a little quirky, and all in a good way. The throttle response is lively. It's just it just makes you want to twist the throttle and go. Got a chance to ride it back to back the other day with 350 KTM EXC, and really lived up to kind of where our first impressions are. The Beta has quite a bit more torque down low, but it revs slower. It doesn't loft the front wheel quite as easy, but in single track trail, we were riding really good Takati single track, really technical stuff. it allows you to ride in one gear much more than on the 350. So for trail application, I actually probably rate it just a little bit higher. It's also, again, it's heavy. It's a little bit heavy. It's 450 weight for heavy. When we get into open terrain, that translates into a bike that's just very stable feeling and goes down the road with very little effort. By comparison, the KTM 350 feels a little bit lively, a little bit twitchy underneath you for doing those long miles. So it really is a bike that exactly splits the difference between 350 and 450, and in my estimation, in a pretty good way. Other high points, the shock on this bike is just always really plush, never gets out of shape. Really like it. The forks are good. Let me say 70% of the time they just work great. Every once in a while, certain rocks, certain kind of really rough trail, they still show just a little bit of harshness. Just again, a tick down in plushness and performance from what I would consider, best in class. I wish it had a better headlight. This thing it's pretty, but it's very weak. I got caught out one night with it, and I want to tell you, trying to finish up last 30 miles of ride in the dark was pretty challenging with that little headlight. Fortunately, one of my buddies came along with an LED and rode alongside me to get me in. Kickstarter, this bike actually kickstarts quite easy. I've never had to use it, but I practiced it a few times just to see if I could, because really there are some new bikes that they're nearly impossible to kickstart. So this one, and for some reason it's significantly easier than our 430 model was. The Betas come with pretty much a full complement of dual sport style switch gear. Be pretty easy to add some turn signals to this, and brake light. All that's holding up real well, no concerns. Again, love the Domino, the dual compound grips. That's holding up really well. So there it is. This is such a fun bike to ride. It won't match the 450 XCW. Again, that's the bike we've got in the garage, so it's kind of what we're riding back to back with it. It won't match it for long haul comfort, but for any kind of trail ride, once we get down into third gear below, the Beta is actually a lot more fun and just fun to ride. It's energizing. It's again, I have yet for a single one of our test drivers to get on this and not just come away with a big smile on their face and really surprised and excited about what it is. So there you go. Pretty happy with it. I will keep this bike until they drag it out of my fingers. 2015 Beta 390 RR. We keep racking up the miles, and it is all good. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. This is Chili, and we will talk to you soon.